The titles are both there at the beginning and the end. Yeah.
Our mortality is a given, you know. So how you deal with that is up to you a little bit, you know.
I guess, like, yeah, throughout the film, we kind of see them dealing with that too. And yeah, like, I was wondering if you could talk a little bit about how you created those two characters to put in that situation.
Gosh, this was in the thick of the pandemic. We would go to this little park that wasn't really a park. It was like a bit of AstroTurf and 2 benches, and Matt and I would just sit and we'd reminisce, and we would talk about, you know, just, we wanted to make a movie. You know, we had been doing the last 10 years or so, you know, we'd done some YouTube stuff, we'd done some web series, and we were pitching, we were going around, and we were just getting no's, and we had written, I think, like 4, like, one-location movies, because one location is cheap, right? And then we're sitting there, like, we can't write another one-location movie, like, because you're sitting there, just like, well, why are they in this one location? Why don't they just, you know, leave? And then we're like, well, you know, there's another type of movie that is cheap, which is the no-location movie, which is just get on the road and go shoot something. And so we sort of wanted, you know, sort of feeling this cooped upness a little bit, and sort of started writing something that we could just make, and we could just make for ourselves and just go out and shoot. And so that's sort of where the sort of road movie came, and the idea of like, well, okay, who's going to be driving? What's the story here of these two characters? And a lot of it, you know, I mean, there's some of it's coming from my
yeah, I mean, very much. My best friend committed suicide in college, and some of the idea of the road trip was from that. Him and his dad had built a car together. So actually Freddie came along with me, but us and a bunch of our friends took a road trip to deliver his car back to his family. And I just think with the two characters, we knew we wanted to deal with grief, and we always, pretty quickly, we landed on Talia's a scar, like she hasn't dealt with it, it's grown, but it's healed poorly. And then, you know, Kai's just an open wound, just fucking bleeding everywhere. Fresh, yeah, control. And honestly, I would say a lot of the character of Talia, like Ashley was one of the first people we sent the script to, and she, you know, she loved it and was just like, I want to do it. And after that, it's really easy when you write to somebody. And then we were lucky enough to find Jordan. So once you get the actors, the characters kind of just start coming together.
I remember we were talking about like what does she do? You know, trying to come up with different professions. And like, I don't remember, it was just at some point like the idea of like beekeeping and this idea of like thematically, like in Roadside Picnic they describe like aliens, if they came to Earth, maybe these artifacts in Roadside Picnic, they're just a roadside picnic with like to ants. Like if we threw a bunch of bottles, like a glass bottle would be mind-blowing to an ant. Right? And so too, like that sort of like speciation, right? So that we don't understand this spike, but in the same way, like bees have no idea what's going on with human society, but there's this sort of cooperation and there's this sort of hive thing that's going there. It felt like thematic, it felt like it tied in with kind of the story that was told. So it's like, oh, beekeeper, let's go with that, yeah.
Well, Jordan and Ashley, what, when you read the script, what made you think, oh yeah, this is for me?
Well, I was approached by Ashley through a mutual friend of ours, and when I read the script, I just really resonated and related to it after, you know, the pandiddly, and I was, yeah, I just felt very emotionally connected to the character, mental health wise and everything. I really just, yeah, I just really felt drawn to this character, and really wanted to get in on the action. So yeah, thank you for that.
Well, we're lucky to have you. I've always loved everything that Matt and Freddie do, and this in particular, I think it's very intimate and emotionally rich. And I've also dealt with grief in my life, and that was something that really attracted me to the character. And I just feel like they did such a good job of capturing a feeling that a lot of us were having during the pandemic, which is how do you live when in unprecedented times that are, as our friend Beth said, she would love to live in precedented times for once. But that feeling of like, how do you keep going when everything's so dark and scary? I thought they captured it perfectly, and so yeah, I loved the script, and I'm happy I got to be a part of it.
Well, I can open up to you guys. I see one right here.
Yeah. So 6 months before 9/11. There was this TV show called The Lone Gunman, okay, in March 2001, where there was an airplane that was hijacked by autopilot that tried to fly into the World Trade Center. So my question is, to what extent is this post-apocalypse wasteland predictive programming?
Are you asking if we're going to manifest the spike?
I will say this. I will say this. Ways the world could end. Yeah.
not too bad.
Well, but here's the thing, though, which is something that really frustrates us with apocalypse movies, which is there's like two kinds, right? There's two flavors. It's either we're shooting each other in the wastelands, and it's like, dang, I got in my tricked out M4 and no rules and no laws.
No, I got no family. I got killed bad guys. This sucks so bad. It's like
or it's the asteroid's coming, and we're gonna save it, with our power. But it never, when you look around, it's like, it never just goes right there. I remember seeing, at this point, so many conflicts, but seeing like footage from various conflicts around the world, and it's like, yeah, there's crazy shit happening on the other side of the city, but this part of the city hasn't reached yet, and life goes on, right? And this sort of observation that like, it never just becomes total chaos. There's still, right, you still have to pay rent. We're all sitting there still dealing with like our day-to-day, and that's true, and looking back through our history, it's like, yeah, Rome did, I got into Roman history over the pandemic. It's like, yes, the fall of the Roman Empire wasn't an overnight affair, as we all know. Anyone who knows, Roman history knows. That's a long, long 400 years of like bad emperors, and like sometimes there was like good emperors for a bit, and then bad again. So that sort of depiction of like the end of the world has felt like for us, we're like, let's just do like one where it's like, yeah, but you still got to deal with
it was the one that TikTok trend was based on.
Yeah. That was a joke that like if Bruce Willis or Michael Bay did like the Black Plague movie, they would like stop the Black Plague, but it was like 50% of Europe died, but people still like, partied and had to do their chores and have kids. Like people sort of like, you just live. It's like, so we just wanted to kind of capture that feeling that you're just in it. It is what it is.
Someone sit right here.
How many pairs of calves did you audition before laying up?
This was okay. So this is a thing where we're like, you gotta do some like lifts. Did you do any exercises in preparation, like calf exercises?
We did have one actor come in and show us his calves right away. They're pretty good, but Jordan won. This is embarrassing. Actually, we that calf shot, that first calf shot, is somehow a pickup 6 months later because somehow we forgot that shot while we were actually shooting the movie. We were so certain we didn't forget it that we spent 3 days like searching all the photographs. So we refused to believe that the two of us did not shoot Jordan's calves. Luckily, you stayed in shape and you look great. And that's just like in some park in like South Pasadena, like on some sand.
And I think that's a good lesson to the filmmakers out there, which is that like you will forget the most obvious shot, and you're like, gotta get a pic of this.
It was amazing, yeah.
So the film obviously tackles a lot of like heavy themes and stuff like that, but it's also really fun. Kind of going into the writer's room and acting is part of it. How do you balance that in the acting sense? Like, all right, you have to do it in the same shot where you have a really heavy moment, but then you have to laugh about it later on.
Yeah, this is a question, I guess, about the balance between comedy and drama in the film.
How do we do that, guys?
Well, I was going to say
You're the ones that do the hard work.
Well, from an acting perspective, the script, like I said, I love the script, and the script is really clear. Like, it's not, there's some things that you read and you're like, I don't actually know how they want this to play. I think it was really clear reading it, like, what moment wanted to be what. So really, it's a reversing it back to you guys of how did you write it so well?
Well, I think one of my favorite scenes in all of movies is the scene in The Host when they're grieving that one take in front of the funeral stuff, and I think that anybody who has gone through grief recognizes that the texture of life isn't just one flavor all the time, right? Like I remember I've been to funerals and we get to a discussion about the person and everyone's laughing there. And from the outside, you look at that and you're like, well, they must not be grieving because of that. It's like, no, because the blend of emotions and the way that we sort of go through things, as long as you're trying to get to some kind of honesty with it. And the world is, I think, a very funny place if you're looking for that. And it can be a place that has that sort of depth. And I've never experienced it just only in one direction. I've always felt that that blend is present. And that's something I think we've always tried to catch in our movies a little bit.
Yeah, I think as weird as it is, somebody else's grief can be funny. It just is, right, that's, I forget to say, but right, it's like something happens to you, it's a tragedy, somebody else's comedy. And I think there's a lot of, that's why we have some of those weird characters, it's this big, awful moment for Talia, but for this old lady who's she's just trying to read a book, this guy, and then there's one other guy, the hiker had some whole experience, who knows what it is, but the audience is outside of it, so I think it's a lot of kind of just balancing between getting intimate with the characters and also letting you feel it from the outside. And sometimes it's just humans are weird. It's just interesting to watch other people and if it wasn't also funny, I don't know, it'd be a bummer. So we try to keep it light.
Yeah, right here.
Kind of jumping off of that. one aspect that stood out to me were the side characters, like the pancakes guy, the two kids at the gas station. What was it like crafting those characters, and like were they based off of like any
Those were the two easiest.
Name of the side characters.
I do believe Chase is here. Chase, are you here? Can you please stand up?
Such a dream. Where are you?
In 2010, we did this YouTube road trip as part of this thing where we were doing the YouTube channel. We went a 10,000 mile circumnavigation of the entire United States, and we ran into the two kids are real people that we met. We were in Northern California, and these two kids were running. They were older. They were like in their felt like early 20s.
Later, a newspaper called them adult men, so we'll get to that. So like they were definitely probably like 18 or 19.
But they were running to Connecticut and biking. We did the same thing. We're like, what are you guys talking about? And it was in the winter. We're like, the Rocky Mountains are here. Like you couldn't even have a support team. If Lance Armstrong on a bike with a support team would die.
You're like getting ready to be like, just go wash the dishes at this place. Like get a Greyhound ticket. Like, nah, man, we're good. We're gonna go on our bikes. We got this. Can you patch us up? And they were pretty much exactly the characters. I mean, yeah, they were exactly the characters you saw. We just been thinking about them I think about those kids more than anybody.
You have to talk about what happens.
So okay, so obviously they're off into the great unknown, and we don't know what happens to them. But in real life, as far as I can tell, what happens when we're like, I wonder what happened to those kids 2 weeks later. I'm on Google News. I'm like, what details do I know? I'm like, oh, they mentioned like their hometown, so I'm Googling stuff. And then the first result's one result. 2, I won't say the name of the town, men arrested outside, and at the time, a town 50 miles away from where we were. They kept going 50 miles. They walked into a Walmart, and they stole 2 bikes. Stole the bikes. They seemed like focused. So
Wasn't one of the details that they then were caught, like on the Burger King across the street?
That's right. They were caught at the local Burger King, which was, according to Google Maps, in the same complex as.
You stole 2 bikes. We're kind of hungry. You hungry now?
You have to admire the conviction of that.
And then same thing with Penny Man. We'll get into it, but like it was in Pennsylvania in a dead town, and we were just exploring, looking for maybe a location to shoot. And there's just this lonely guy, looking for pennies, and we just talked to him for a while, and it was pretty much the story you heard. It was like, oh, he used to work here, the town's dead, live 10 miles off the road, I just, and then he was showing us pennies, and just walked off.
And there's like this image of this man like just searching for antique coins in a dead town as he disappeared to the fog. Like I still think about that, it's like what a weird, strange thing to come across.
Hey, we only have time for one more, it's gonna be you.
So what's like one creative problem that you had that like just stumped you that ended up working out like better than you expected to? Like just something you got right.
Jordan's shorts.
We didn't saw that. You were just cold the whole time.
That was in Utah in the winter, and Jordan was freezing the entire time. Poor
It's like,
Jordan.
oh, this is my outfit for the whole film?
And we were saying like, listen, you know the road trip movie, you've seen Easy Rider, it's lush, it's green, it's springtime, but what about a road trip movie and it's the texture of winter and autumn and these lush browns, and then we're in Utah, we're 5,000 feet in the air, we're like, it's also cold. That doesn't come through so much as easily. So that was one where, we just had, that was like an on-set wardrobe thing, just cover you up as much as we can, space heaters everywhere. There's photos and it's just the both of them look like Darth Vader, like giant coats, right before the takeoff. So, but you can't tell, so it's gonna work, man. That's hard. That's real acting. That's real acting.
You pumped yourself up before every shoot, do you remember?
Oh, yes, I did that.
Yeah.
Well, please give them a very warm round of applause.